Hello, welcome to 10 at 10. What's the date? November 12th. I'm Spencer Koppel. I'm a digital specialist here at Key Media Solutions.
And I'm Darby Kennecke. I'm an account coordinator here at Key Media Solutions. Today, we're kind of going to go over how AI is impacting our social media, either if that's algorithms or content. We see it everywhere, and every swipe, every like, every pause, everything is influencing our algorithm and what we're consuming on a day to day on our platforms that we're using. So
Yeah.
we're going to go over some like techniques and different things that each other or all the platforms are using. So, um, what is AI doing behind the feed, Spencer?
Kind of like you said, it seems to be something that every single platform nowadays is using. And it's not random. It's something that they're purposely putting in there because it seems to work. And we'll get a little bit more into it later, but it's a very coveted thing with an algorithm that works well and works with AI super well. And kind of like you said as well, using things like likes, views, watch time, actual engagement metrics, those kind of things, just making it so you're going to continue to be engaged with the content instead of scrolling
Mhm.
off and going to a whole different website or going to another platform or doing anything else. The end goal is basically just to keep you engaged.
Right, definitely. Um, First platform and biggest platform we'll probably talk about is TikTok.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit how AI is impacting the algorithm in TikTok?
Yeah. So TikTok is probably one of the best, that's in my opinion, one of the best algorithms when it comes to AI and stuff like that with engagement. So them being able to rapidly respond to what you engage with. So how TikTok works is the amount of watch time that you have or the amount of engagement that you have with the content, the more likely you are to see that kind of content. And they've kind of curated. There's a reason that I think it's like $1 billion sale that's going on potentially with TikTok. There's a reason for it, and it's because their algorithm is so well made. And so basically, how theirs works is if you're engaged with the content at all, basically, the feed is able to kind of make adjustments on the fly, real time, to be able to adjust to what you're seeing. And kind of when we were doing the rehearsal, I was talking about there was one point where there was a bunch of AI content of like cats working at McDonald's, and I remember thinking I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. So I sent it to my dad. But then my algorithm, because I sent that and because that was something that the algorithm was like, oh, he likes this content. That's like all I saw for the next 10 or so swipes was just AI generated cat content doing random stuff or, cats in movies, stuff like that. And kind of just them being able to realize like, oh, he likes that content. Let's get him just a whole bunch and see what happens. That kind of stuff is super. It's very in depth. And then kind of what's cool with theirs too is they will introduce content that's unfamiliar. So it's something that another example was like bird watching. I'm not super interested in bird watching,
Mhm.
but sometimes when my algorithm will pop that onto my feed, I'll be engaged with it and I'll watch it for like a minute. And so I'll get a little bit more content related to like birds and bird watching, that kind of stuff. So being able to, and I feel like they take a risk with TikTok to show content that like, we aren't entirely sure if you'll like this, but if you do, we'll show you more, that kind of stuff. And so like
Mhm.
their algorithm just works super well with that kind of content.
Yeah, it's so frustrating because I get the horses or the bears jumping on the trampoline, that AI content,
Yep.
and it's like you really want to send it out because it is so funny and it's kind of just laughable,
Mhm.
but then you just know that it's going to keep coming up on your feed, so it's like a hard push and pull, you
Yeah,
know?
it's literally, yeah, and yeah, I think yeah, the push and pull is kind of what it is, where it's like sometimes yes, I like that content, but at the same time, it's like sometimes it's too much. Like, yeah,
Right.
yeah, I could go on forever about it. It's just sometimes their algorithm it works really well, and sometimes it's just like just does not
Yeah,
work.
definitely. Then Facebook and Instagram. Let's go over some things that like Meta does.
Yeah. So obviously, Facebook, Meta, or Instagram are a little bit older social media, and they're kind of, I feel like almost trying to get back onto the curve. TikTok kind of said it, and they're kind of trying to not steal what TikTok is doing, but trying to make their own. Obviously, with Facebook and Instagram being a little bit more friend focused, a little bit more related to people you follow.
Mhm.
Instagram also has kind of had a weird, like, it's like personality crisis almost, where they are their algorithm pushes a little bit more content rather than people you see. So lately, you won't see as much content from people that you know. Instead, they're kind of more focused on what content you might like and kind of generating engagement almost instead of just being people that you follow. Facebook, I haven't really noticed too much of a difference with AI. Obviously, you will get stuff that's a little local and stuff that's a little bit more broad, but it's still kind of focused on people you follow.
Yeah.
But there's this, with Instagram, they use something called the Explore page, where it's basically somewhere you can see content that's curated towards you. And there's in a similar scope to like TikTok, where if you engage with that content, that's all you get. Like mine's broken, and all it shows me is cat content. So
Mhm.
there's no really exploration for me, and that's just something that they've kind of curated their content to their algorithm to be.
Yeah, that I know, like last year, I wouldn't even see the people I was following on Instagram. It would almost be like other content that they thought I might like. And
Yep.
it's like 2 weeks later, then a post of one of my friends would show up, and I'm like, I didn't even know, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like so weird. So it's like, is that them testing out new things? But I'm just glad that it's kind of back on track a little bit more
A
for me.
little bit. Every once in a while, there'll be one I'm like, oh, this person posted this 2 weeks ago. Like that would have been good to know 2 weeks
I
ago.
know, right? And then X. So what are they kind of doing on their platform?
So theirs is kind of similar to a little bit of mix of both. So theirs is a little bit more towards actually getting content that you might be engaged with, similar to TikTok, while also still kind of trying to keep people that you follow and what they engage with as well. So there's, I think, is about 50% of people that you don't follow will be on your feed, whereas the other 50% will be either people you follow or if they're liking that you can't see people's likes on Twitter anymore, but what they're retweeting, stuff like that. So it's a little bit more kind of keeping in line with the like Facebook, Instagram, but also a little bit like TikTok. Just try to figure out content that people like.
All right, yeah. And then what are some techniques that all these platforms are using?
Yeah. So collaborative filtering is one of them, and that's kind of like I said with Twitter or X. So kind of just recommending content based on crowd behavior. So people that you follow. So it's people if they're liking stuff, even though you can't see the likes, you'll still kind of your algorithm might get shifted a little bit towards the people that you follow. I assume it's because their algorithm, how it works is they assume you follow people that have similar interests as you, or might enjoy things the same as you, and so it might be able to show you some content that like might be relevant to you. And then deep learning is another one. So kind of just making sure that how Instagram or TikTok works, being able to kind of just like evaluate what images, videos, stuff like that you're actually engaging with, and you're actually getting a deep understanding about what's happening on your feed.
Right. And then, we're consuming a lot of this every day, but what should we why does this matter, as marketers?
Yeah. For us, it kind of just tells us where things are at. Kind of tells us trends. Kind of tells us what interactive formats might be working. If we can look at content and see what's getting clicks, what's getting likes, and stuff like that, it tells us what content might be adjusting for. Looking forward to like 2026. What's something like just trends basically. It kind of tells us what visibility there might be open for us as marketers.
Yeah, and then I just want to circle back to a little thing about real-time learning. I know that has to do a little bit with TikTok. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. And so that's kind of, I don't think any other platforms use it quite yet, but that's something that TikTok does where it will, depending on if you scroll, pause, click, look at comments, stuff like that, it will adjust your algorithm based on that. So if you're scrolling through a bunch of content and you just aren't interested, it'll in real time make adjustments to what you're seeing. So they might try a whole bunch of, that might be a cooking video. You're like, I'm not hungry right now. It might be a shopping video. I don't want to spend money right now. That kind of stuff. So on the fly, it's able to adjust content what you're seeing. So once it actually gets to a place where, if it finally gets to like, I don't know, skateboarding, something like that, something you're interested in, that you actually watch the video, you actually pause the video, you're clicking on stuff, or you're engaging or sharing it with somebody, they'll be able to make adjustments on the fly of, hey, this person really likes this. Let's get them some more content. But yeah, their adjustments still have to be kind of made with making sure that's still personalized, but also kind of that broad approach that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are kind of we already know as AI enters kind of our social things, what are some things we can watch out for, or kind of like how can we take a little more control over our algorithm?
Yeah. And so kind of like I was saying earlier, filter bubbles is a thing where sometimes you'll get overexposed to the same content, same topics, same stuff like that, and you kind of will get a little bit fatigued by that. And which can be a good thing because maybe that's just like, oh, well, I've scrolled for too long, time to get off, that kind of stuff. But that is something to kind of keep an eye out on where it's like, this content just isn't right for me. And usually there's some kind of way that you can see like why you're getting that content, but it really depends on the platform. And another huge one is emotional content, whether that be outrage or humor kind of content. A lot of that stuff is a lot of content that's more geared towards humor or outrage are kind of there to get your engagement, to get your views and stuff like that. So it's kind of just something to watch out for, that if content is a little bit too, rage bait or engagement bait kind of stuff, where it's like, I can tell that they're wanting me to interact with this content. It's more than likely made so you will engage with the content. And so that's just something to steer clear of. Just watch for telltale signs where it's like, okay, is this actually happening, or is this every single post this person's posting where their kids yelling at them or something like that? I'm like, okay, the people make money off of it, so you kind of have to be a little cautious about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And then just wrapping up, where is this headed? It's so fast evolving. So what can we see next?
Yeah. Some platforms have already started kind of delving into transparency. I think Twitter or X, I think it was 2024, they kind of talked a little bit more about their algorithm, and that's how we're able to figure out that 50% people you don't know will be on your feed. So I'm hoping that soon we'll actually have a little bit more transparency about what's happening. And maybe with that TikTok sales that's happening, we might get a little bit more transparency about what happens with their algorithm, because we can kind of speculate what it does and you can kind of look at it, but I don't think we have a full document about what exactly it does, because there's just so much going on with it. And a little bit more user control potentially. I think Instagram has a tool where you're able to see, why am I seeing this? And actually look into why am I getting this content, instead of it just being on your feed. And then also the ability to maybe filter off generative AI. So like if you don't want to see any more videos of cats at McDonald's, that kind of stuff, being able to kind of toggle that on, so you only want to see people's actual content, actual user created content. I think that we might see kind of a gear towards that direction soon.
Yeah, well, thank you, Spencer. We'll stay on for a couple more seconds just to see if there's any questions. But yeah, there's so much to go over, and this is probably something we can talk about all day, because there are so many other platforms too, and they're all using AI.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's something that's constantly always evolving too. 1 month it'll be a certain way, and another month, like you said with Instagram, is you didn't see your people you were following for a while. But then, after a few months it fixed. So a lot of it is up in the air. So a lot of it you kind of have to take with a grain of salt. But we can kind of see the general area and general direction that, AI is going and algorithms are going. So just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I don't see any questions, so thank you so much.